this is Walter the English Conversation Doctor coming to you again today from my kitchen. And today's segment is going to be a little bit of a cooking lesson for a lot of my guy students in Tokyo, because I noticed that a lot of my male students always come to me and say that they cannot cook. So what I'm going to do today is, I know that guys tend to be very busy with work, so I'm going to teach you how to cook a very, very simple and delicious dish called poutine. Now, poutine is a Canadian dish that originated around Quebec in the 1950s, but it's very popular in Canada, and I love eating this dish. And it doesn't take a lot of time to make, and you need very few materials to do it. It's not exactly the healthiest food in the world, but we'll get to that later. And so I'll go ahead and run you through the process, and this is a very good dish for parties as well. So all you need to make poutine is any kind of ground meat, so either beef or pork. It tends to work for me. I like a beef and pork mix. And you need potatoes, and you also need flour and cooking oil, and then you can kind of season it any way that you want to. So I'm not going to spend so much time on the explanation. I'm going to try to make this video short, so we'll get right into the cooking. Now, as an American, I love potato dishes. Right, anything with potatoes in it. So every time I walk by McDonald's, that's like one of my weak points. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your potatoes, and I have some pretty good sized ones here, and you're just going to wash them off. Now, you don't necessarily have to use like potatoes from the supermarket. You could use the frozen pre-bought ones. The pre-frozen ones also work fine, but I like my potatoes with the skin on it. So take this, and I'm just going to cut them up. Okay, now this is what your chopped up potatoes are going to kind of look like. So it doesn't really matter how, like what style you use to cut them. I prefer like wedge style, and like I said, I like to leave the skins on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these in water, and this will keep them a little bit fresher. You can use salt water as well, but this will keep them a little bit fresher, and it'll keep them from getting like soggy. So now that I've got my potatoes done and chopped up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the meat into a pan, and we're going to go ahead and kind of cook it. Now I'm just going to cook it until it's brown, and a lot of students tell me that they find it very hard to make gravy. But actually, making gravy is very easy. So what I tend to do is, since I like to make meat-based gravies, or brown gravies, which are meat-based, I'll cook the meat first and let it brown, and then what I tend to do is I add like 1 or 2 tablespoons of like just plain flour to the mix. So let me mix this up here. Now, the reason why you want to add your flour to the mix while the meat is cooking is because this will prevent you from getting chunks in your gravy, like just white chunks of flour. So I'm going to just kind of add a few tablespoons of flour, and you can also, this is a good time for you to add your seasoning too. So I'm going to add some salt and pepper and some just like garlic, and I might throw some basil in there as well. Right, so there you go. Those in, and mix. And the purpose of this is to make sure that the beef absorbs the flour. And this is why I don't use oil, because like normally when I'm cooking meat or when I'm making gravy, the meat tends to have enough oil in it already to where I don't need to add butter or margarine or anything. And while that's going, I'm going to just add a little bit of water to this, right? Now, because I added the flour to the meat already, and it's already been absorbed by the oil in the meat, then that means making my gravy has just become a lot easier, because all I need to do is just add water, like so. Yeah, so I'm just adding water like this, and I'll cut the heat up a little bit. And this is how I make gravy. Now, like I could get a little bit more fancy with this and add like onions or whatever to it if I wanted to. And even for Putin, even though this is Putin, you don't really necessarily have to worry about making brown gravy. So if you're a vegetarian and you don't like eating meat, then you can substitute your gravy with anything. Like you can go with onion gravy or even a white type of gravy sauce. It doesn't really matter because we're going to be putting cheese on this anyway. So let me stir this, and my gravy sauce is coming out pretty nicely. So while I'm stirring, I'm just kind of making sure that there's no white chunks of just like white clumps of flour in this. So I want to try to make my gravy as chunkily smooth as possible because you got to keep in mind it is meat based. Alright, and that is looking pretty good right now. So this is our gravy at this point. I'm going to let it cook a little bit more. Hold on, don't know if you can see that. So I'm going to let it cook a little bit more until it thickens up a bit. If my gravy is a little bit too watery, I can add more flour if necessary. But in this case, I'm just going to kind of cut the heat down and let it simmer. And let it soak up all of that goodness. This looks like it needs a little bit more salt and pepper. Now, if you'll notice, I don't measure anything. That's one of my good and bad habits of cooking. For me, cooking is more like an art. So I suck at measuring stuff. I think I'll throw some basil in here too. Yeah. Throw a little bit of basil powder in there. And let's see how this goes. Alright, cut the heat down a little bit more. Ooh, that smells much better. Yes, good call, Walter, on the basil. Now, you don't really want to. One thing you want to be careful of is you don't want to make your gravy too salty because, like I said, you're going to be adding cheese to this anyway. So it's better to make it a little bit weak and then just add your flavoring to it as necessary later. Otherwise, you're going to have a batch full of gravy that's too salty to eat. All right, and I'm going to let this cook. And while this is cooking, now is a good time to do our potatoes. So, like I said, our potatoes are going to be deep fried. So basically, Poutine is just French fried potatoes with gravy and cheese on top, and it tastes awesome. So I'm gonna let my oil heat up. A lot of students are afraid of frying, so especially a lot of my guy students for some reason are like terrified of frying. So if you are afraid of frying, my only advice for you is to man up. Especially if you're a guy. I mean, like playing with fire and hot oils is one of the privileges of being a man. So, just try it. You're going to love it. You are going to burn yourself a few times, but you know, after a while, you'll get used to it. So, letting this heat up, and I think I can cut my gravy off now. It should be thick enough. Yeah, I don't want it too thick, but if it gets too thick, I can just add a little bit more water to it. And this is what my gravy looks like, and this is going to taste so good. All right. So, waiting for my oil to heat up here. Now, Poutine is, as you can see, this is a very easy dish to cook, and this is also a very good dish for children. So, if you're going to teach your children how to cook and like kind of how to experiment with cooking, then this is one way that you can do it. Now, I would recommend using this for children who are about maybe 7 years old and above, because I mean you are dealing with children, fire, and hot oils, and of course you are going to absolutely need parental supervision when they're doing this, right? So don't just like leave your kids in the kitchen and be like, good luck, because they're going to wind up spilling this all over themselves. Right, and this is also like, I also recommend parental supervision for adults who have never cooked before and who are still living with their parents or whatnot. So this is good practice for you too. Alright, so the way that I'm going to check to see if my oil is hot enough, and I'm using just normal like canola oil. You can use canola oil or like any kind of oil really. The way that I'm going to check and see if my oil is hot enough without my thing telling me is, I'm just going to take a little bit of water and I'm going to drop it in there. And when it starts popping, that means that it's ready to cook, right? So I'm not using a lot of oil, so I'm just going to take these guys and toss them in here. And I think my oil might have gotten a little bit too hot, but I don't care because I'm just going to take these guys and drop them like that. Woo! All right, so now this is like, yeah, my oil got a little bit too hot, so I had to back off there because I got a little bit of a splash, which is why I'm glad my kids weren't around. So, like, this is going to take, it's not going to take a lot of time for these to cook, and I'm going to go ahead and drop a few more in here as well. Burn, baby, burn. Yeah, I love that sound. right? Now, this is going to be really good for the person eating it. But I often wonder, how does a potato feel when it gets dropped into a boiling vat of hot oil? I mean, that has to be a very traumatic experience. And I'm pretty sure a potato couldn't really express it even if it could talk. But I'm kind of certain that it feels a little bit something like this. Okay, so I'm going to let these guys cook for a little bit. Now, I'm not using too much oil, so it shouldn't really take them too long. So I do realize that I'm not utilizing the rule of cleaning while I'm cooking. So all of you professionals, yes, yeah, you can like email me and complain later. Right, so that's always a good rule to follow. Alright, so let me clean up a little bit. And I need a bowl. So I'm gonna like use this bowl to put my my French fries into. And do I need this water anymore? Nah. Yeah. So that water was from my gravy. I don't really need it anymore. Alright. And what I'm going to use this bowl for is, I need this bowl and I need a piece of paper. Now, you can use anything. You can like use newspaper or you can use like napkin. I'm going to use a napkin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line my small bowl here with this napkin, my potato receptacle, my fried potato receptacle, with this napkin. And I'm going to wait for these guys to get fried. Now, the way that you can tell if your potatoes are fried is if you have enough oil in here. I don't really have enough. You can't really see this because I'm not going to pick it up and show it to you. But I don't have enough oil in here. But if you have enough oil and you're wondering if your potatoes have been fried, you can just you should notice that they're starting to float. So once your potatoes start floating, then that means that they're pretty much done. So you can take them out and dump them in your bowl. For those of you who are using a little bit of oil, like you might not be able to tell, but potatoes will tend to cook anyway. Will continue to cook after they're taken out of the oil. So all you have to do is stack them on top of each other, and they should be fine. And these guys are just about done. Okay, I've got like some floating here. Another way that you can tell if your potatoes are done is just to go by the color. I tend to cook mine until they're golden brown. All right, and here we go. All right, these guys are done. I'm just going to use this or a pair of chopsticks to scoop them out of here. So these guys are done. So let me go ahead and drop the other fries in here, and that's going to make another big splash, and I'm going to get out of the way very quickly because my oil is a little bit too hot, but it makes me feel like a magician, like Merlin or something. Right, rise from the grave. What was that guy, Deckard Cain? Yeah, I bet he would make an awesome chef. So anyway, while these guys are cooking, yeah, for those of you who don't know who Deckard Cain is, he's a guy from like Diablo, from the Diablo series. The guy who never seems to die and always comes back with a vengeance. Alright, so while these guys are cooking, what I'm going to do is, my gravy sauce does have like some seasoning in it, but some people may not want to have gravy sauce, especially if you're like cooking this for a party and you have some vegetarians in the mix. So what I tend to do is I tend to season my fries as well. Yeah, you don't want to over season everything because I'm going to be putting the miracle juice on them in a little bit. Do I need basil? Yeah, I'll throw a little bit of basil right here. So basically the same three things that I put into the gravy. Now you can have different flavored gravy sauce. You can even make a tomato-based sauce. But for me, like this is how I do it. And the reason I put these in a napkin is because they were kind of oily, so the napkin like soaks up all the oil, and that keeps them from getting like all wobbly and soft. So I'm just gonna toss them in here, shake, and here you go. Here are your seasoned potatoes. Now, I do know that there are some fast food restaurants in Japan that I'm not gonna mention anybody like by name, like First Kitchen, but they charge about like maybe what 25, 30 yen just to like season your fries. It's much cheaper just to buy the stuff and do it at home. Yeah, and the fries by themselves are good. My youngest son, if he were here right now, he would have already gone through these. So as you can see, this is a very easy recipe, and it doesn't really take a lot of time, to be honest. For me, I'm actually cooking. I'm actually cooking a lot for my family, so I'm going to be feeding up to about 4 people. So I have more fries and stuff to do after this. But realistically, to feed a group of maybe 2 or 3 people, preparation time, all you need is since all you need is potatoes and minced beef and cheese and oil, basically, preparation time for this is realistically only about 5 minutes to slice up the potatoes and about 5 minutes to cook. So you can have everything done in about 10 minutes. Let's see. Yep, these guys are done. They're all brown and floating and screaming, "Walter, please get me out of here." Yeah, I would leave them in a little bit longer because I'm sadistic, but I'm also hungry. So. Alright, so I'll take these guys out of here. And they're a little bit darker, but that's fine. Alright, and I guess I'll add a little bit more seasoning just because you guys didn't get any. Want to make sure that they feel the love too before they get eaten. Yes. Alright. Now, like I said, this is not the healthiest dish in the world, but it will fill you up. And potatoes are healthy for you in moderation anyway, depending on how they're cooked. Well, now that we're done with the cooking part, all that we have to do is we have to combine our potatoes and our gravy. So let me go ahead and dump these guys on the plate. Now, personally, I like thicker gravy sauce, and I'll explain why in a little bit. I'll explain why. Because I like thicker gravy sauce. That's why. But you can also go for thinner if you want. So this is what we have right now: fried potatoes and gravy. Ooh, looks good, doesn't it? Now you could eat this right away just like this with no problem, but it's still missing our secret ingredient, the thing that's going to make it really pop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add cheese on top of this. Now I'm using this standard tokeru, which means easy to melt cheese, because, well, it was the cheapest one I could find in the supermarket. But you can use any kind of cheese. You can use cheddar, mozzarella. Now I know a lot of Canadians are going to be like, "Oh no, if you use..." Normally they use cheese curled. So a lot of Canadians will be like, "Oh no, if you're using cheddar or mozzarella or whatever, then that's not true poutine." And they're correct, but I don't care. I just want to go for what tastes good and is easy to make. So I'm going to put my cheap tokeru cheese on top of this. And then I'm going to... I could sit here and let the meat melt this, but I'm lazy and I'm hungry. So I'm going to microwave this for about 2 minutes. And basically, once I'm done microwaving, we're done with this project. So this is a good time for me to go ahead and pack up all my stuff, clean up, before my wife gets home, because if she sees this, she's gonna kick my ass. So I've got to make sure everything's clean, and my oldest son should be home in a little bit. So basically, that's how you make poutine, and it's actually very easy to do. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's a very good party dish for people who are having guests over, especially for the weekend or during games. And it's pretty safe if you're not too afraid of frying stuff. So for guys who don't have a lot of time, this is the perfect dish for you to play around with and experiment. So what I'll try to do from now on is I'll try to make at least 1 or 2 segments, cooking segments per month for my guys who are interested in learning how to cook foreign dishes and whatnot, or at least feed themselves a little bit better during the week. And I'll film them and I'll post them up on YouTube or Facebook. If you like it, please send me an email or a comment or subscribe to my page. Or if you have any recommendations or any other questions that you might have, just go ahead and send them to me, and I'll see if I can make a video on those as well. All right. So I've got 9 more seconds until my poutine is finished. And here is the final product. Now I just microwaved this for 2 minutes, but doesn't this look so good? Look, here we go. Let's see if I can give you a closer shot. You've got all that meaty goodness. Look at all of that cheese just melting. So this is the ultimate party dish, right? Now, the good thing about poutine, besides it being very, very ridiculously easy to make, is that because you're eating potatoes, even if the serving is small, it will fill you up. I mean, because the volume is actually pretty big. It feeds a lot of people, and one of the best things about poutine is that it also goes great with ear. Right? So since I just finished cooking and I'm getting hungry from talking to you guys, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to grab one of these, I'm going to go upstairs, and I'm going to play video games. I don't have a PS4 yet, and my kids are always hogging the Wii U, so I think I'm going to go play Borderlands. I haven't really seen too many games out on the market that I'm really interested in playing right now, so I'm going to go back to playing Borderlands for a little bit just because I love Claptrap.
Wait a minute, Walter. That's not very healthy. You don't have any vegetables in this at all. How do you expect to raise a good family without proper nutrition?
That is a very good point. So, if you'll notice, there are no vegetables in this. Like, Americans would argue that potato is a vegetable, but I still think it's a starch. Sorry. But there's not very many greens or very many vegetables mixed with this. So this is a good dish to serve with salads or fresh cut vegetables, and and also fruits and stuff like that. So if you're going to have this for a party, please make sure that you have like a little bit more healthy food hanging around this. Otherwise, people are just going to eat this, get fat, and not be able to go home. So I'll show you a proper setting for this later. So if you find this video interesting, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page, and check out the other content that I have online. I do a lot of cultural blogging events, Tokyo Game Show, Tokyo Comic-Con, and Japanese cultural events. I also blog about video games and basically anything else that I find interesting, so I'm pretty sure I have something for everybody, right? So that's it. I'm going to eat. Please give this a try whenever you have a chance, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Market, you could use the pre-frozen ones, also work fine, but I like my potatoes with the skin on it. So take this, and I'm just going to cut them up, and there is no particular way that you're going to try to cut these. Whoa. Okay.
どうじゃん。それどこで買った？
それ大関。That's not working either. 何もかけないとこれ難しい。
あ、音があれ。
うんうん。Oh no, 考えてない。
ああ。